Greetings and welcome to this episode on Geeks First. Today, it's another product review day for Flesh and Blood. It is the Rosetta Collection box. We're going to compare that right now. Some interesting things about this video is I was going to go scripted, but honestly, I'm going to go ahead and go unscripted for a few reasons. One, because I feel that my unfeathered thoughts on this are going to be much better if I just kind of talk about the highlights, the continuations of good things, and still some of the improvements that should or should not be put in the product. This is the third iteration of this box. The first was the Ultimate Pit Fight. This one's been seen better love. The second was the Part the Mistveil box, and now the third is the Rosetta box there. So, with all that said, some interesting things have continued, and I'm glad for this because it does help a player get into the game. Now, if you are new to Flesh and Blood, something that is intriguing with this particular product is that this, unlike the days of old, and even so far going back to like Part the Mistveil, right? Or going back even one step further, you know, heavy hitters, things like that, you could purchase the Blitz decks, which that's what these are in here. It's the Young Hero format. The Blitz decks can be purchased individually, but this was kind of a direction shift, and there's some crazy interesting decisions they made here, similar to like a Pokemon ETB, which is something that I do tend to kind of compare this to, but it's not exactly the same. Couple things. We're going to open this up here in just a second, so we're going to go to the overhead camera, and yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and open while I talk, and I will be off the screen. All right, starting us off, we have the Rosetta Flesh and Blood Collection box, and one of the interesting things about this particular item, and one of the things I do actually enjoy, is that you do get this beautiful collection art box, which some of the old Magic the Gathering sets had something similar to this way back in the day. And I thought this was such a beautiful idea for several reasons. So when we flip this over, the contents inside this are going to be in this case, because of this set, there are 4 heroes. You get the 4 Blitz decks, you have the playmat, and 2 cards. Now, if we contrast that to the prior release, you had 3 Blitz decks, a playmat, and 3 boosters. So they do try to keep the value within this about the same. And you'll notice that they do aesthetically keep the same thing going, and these are going to, over time, look beautiful on a shelf. And one quick thing before I jump into there, this is the one I've used already, and you'll see that I have the 3 Blitz decks from this one sleeved up with plenty of room left to go. So without further ado, let's go ahead and look at the inside of what is in the Flesh and Blood collection. You get a beautiful playmat. Now, interestingly enough, something about Flesh and Blood playmats is kind of a intriguing. I mean, look at that. That's a beautiful piece of artwork right there. So let's go ahead and get that on the floor beneath us so we can have something to open on top of. But all these mats, right? These are, I don't know if the word is exclusive, but they do come in this particular product. So inside of this product, we do have 2 of the Flesh and Blood booster packs. These are the paper versions. We have the 4 Blitz decks, Florian, Verdance, Aurora, and Acilio. Look at that. And what's nice is this can come out, and this becomes a 1,000 count, or give or take about 800 storage count box. 1,000 count really is actually a little bit longer, but, you know, for these, at least they're uniform, and I hope they stick with that size going forward. All right, so now we have the 4 decks. What's neat about these Blitz decks is, while you can't buy them individually, which does kind of turn some people off, there's actually a solid reason why having this is awesome. And one of the things that most people don't talk about is the fact that this particular setup is essentially like buying a board game in a box. So this, if nothing else, you don't have to buy any other products. You can literally buy this. It can become a one and done if you don't want to go any further. This becomes its own standalone product that gives you hours of entertainment where you could have any of these 4 heroes face off against each other. So you have 1 matchup, 2 matchup, 3 matchup, 4 matchup, 5 matchup, 6 matchups. You have a variety of matchups. And with this, theoretically, not that it is something you really want to do, but you could, this gives you the ability to have 4 people play the UPF format. So that is something that most people don't talk about in this, because most people would assume you're buying the older Flesh and Blood UPF box, which this is their first one here. Again, it's seen better days because I decided I was going to use some tape to hold it together. So FYI, don't use some tape to hold it together. When you're traveling on an airplane, it does not turn out very well. Other thoughts on this product. This MSRP is about $70, but most LGSs are selling this for about $59.99. I got this for my LGS for $60. So that's pretty nice. And one of the things that has changed, I do want to notate this because I don't remember seeing this on the prior set. So again, this is iterative improvements in the game of Flesh and Blood, and this is proof in the pudding. So inside of these decks, you would get a couple of cards. You would get a card that basically indicated the hero, some tips and tricks, and a difficulty level. But it was never displayed on the outside of the box, which, if you were a new player and your store wasn't exactly super into knowing the ins and outs of what might be what, then you would not necessarily know that one deck may be harder to play than another. So this was one of those things where inside of these you can see the star levels. They moved this, and we'll see what it looks like on the inside here, but they moved that difficulty level to the back of the box, which in my opinion is a iterative improvement in the positive direction, because at that standpoint I can now say that, well, I really want an easy character to play. So obviously the Lightning Rune Blade here, Aurora, is going to be a pretty decent pick. But if I want a big brain, well, we can go Acilio, right? So this is an awesome upgrade, in my opinion, on how they approached it. I don't even know if these are on the right ones. Was it close? Nope. But you get the idea. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a gander on what's inside each of these as you go forward. We're going to start randomly with Aurora, because this is also a first strike deck. So I do want to talk briefly about the differences between the first strike decks and the blitz decks, which are right here. Now, in a separate video, I've already done, or at least I think I've already done, I might not have at this point actually, because it could have been filmed and not released yet. That is my bad if that's the case. I am going to talk about that there is a blitz deck for Aurora, and there's also a first strike deck for Aurora as well. And you'll notice that right here, this is the first strike deck. Now you might ask, what's the difference and why would you pick one over the other? So if we bring in the other first strike deck, this is Terra, you'll notice that it is not a part of the 3 or 4 heroes in the case here. So this Aurora actually has 2 different young heroes that are in this particular setup that we are staring at here. So if we open up this particular first strike deck, because we are just in the middle of doing a video here, and I might as well talk about it while I'm here, because that will make the most sense versus me trying to edit a card on top of the video, because that's the idea. Make your life easier, not more complicated, right? So, oh gosh, there we go. Got it. All right, there is the Aurora in that deck, and there is the Aurora in that deck. Now, a second ago, I mentioned that they were different. Well, truth be told, they are the same, but they're different artworks. And you'll notice that they are different set numbers. So it's just intriguing that they have done this. So I just wanted to point that out. Now you'll notice here that both of these are rainbow foil, so there are going to be some differences between there and ARA area and AUR. AUR is the Aurora deck. So we'll come back to that in a second because that's a different product. But in here, let's go ahead and get into it and see what the contents hold. If they carried true to form, some of these will have some extended art cards inside of them. So let's get these off to the side. Now, let's take a look. We have the Aurora here. Again, we were talking about that as the rainbow foil hero. And then on top of that, we have the weapon. So the equipment suite is Flash of Brilliance, Blood-Torn Bodice, Ruin Hold Release, a reprint here from Tales of Aria, Runaways, and the cool Sanctuary of Aria, which is a new macro system which has been basically implemented in this set. And this is super awesome to see that in here because it does work with this deck. And I won't go through the rest of these cards, but you'll notice here, as an example, hit the high notes here. This is an extended art. You can see the artwork goes into the frame, and you'll have your full play set for Blitz, at least, and that would also indicate for UPF if you'd like. So that's your full play set of those. And then the rest of these cards are what would be located on the Fabrary or Fab TCG deck list, indicating that these decks have some of those items. Now, awesomely enough, we can take a look. They did include, again, the card with some tips and tricks and that. So that card is still carried forward, and that is an excellent addition to make things there. Now, looking at this deck, there are no Majestics so far, but you do get a couple of sweet lightning-themed tokens here for Lightning Rune Chant and Lightning embodiment of lightning, which really it's not a lightning wrench yet, it looks lightning, so it is kind of cool. And that is going to be what wraps up the Aurora. Let's next go to Acilio here, because Acilio is the next interesting hero, and this bugger is such a complicated little doodad to get open. Alright, so we have Acilio out with our magic power of the Kniff, and inside you'll notice that again, same thing holds true. This deck here is going to provide all the cards necessary to play the Acilio Blitz deck, including your Rainbow Hero foil hero, your equipment suite, which is the weapon and the set of equipment, the macro for Aria, and looks like the extended art is etchings of Arcana in this one, and following true to form, it looks like all of these cards that are in here are going to give you, and again, the tips and tricks card at the back, so no Majestics in that deck, which again is not a problem. It just means that these decks are really going to be balanced toward playing against each other, which is pretty decent. And the experience of having a balanced deck into each other is actually pretty important, because if one deck necessarily would always say, you know, do much better than the others, here's your Florian foil, weapon and equipment, and you get Arcane Cussing as your extended art there. But if one of these heroes did much better than the others, what's going to happen is the person playing that is always going to do just a little bit better. Now, granted, this game does have a lot of skill expression, and that's one thing that is something to note, is that even if I were to take, let's call Michael Hamilton's World Championship deck, which was a different hero, Icelander back in the day, I believe is what it was, I wouldn't be able to pilot that deck near as well as he would. Here's Verdance and the Rainbow Foil. So, you know, the game, depending on what you're trying to get out of it, oh, I was like, there we go, Blossom of Decay, that's your extended art, and it is the full set of those. But, you know, these decks, intriguingly enough, I would imagine, again, like I said, we'll play some of these on the channel too, but they're going to be really good against each other for the simple fact that each of these decks, again, were designed to, one, get you into the game, and two, have an experience that these can be morphed into, you know, a deck. Now, one of the earlier things I did was a video in regards to the heavy hitters, and I'll call back to that one. The heavy hitters had a secret, and that was that you could add the decks together to create a CC deck, because what happens is you had multiple decks of the same class. Now, this is not in this kit. I want to specify that this is not, but I wanted to show you that the Aurora deck here has a lot of similar stuff, as well as a QR code and a full art card to get into the game. But we'll cover this in a different video, but I just wanted to show that realistically the contents of this are very similar to what you'll get in Aurora, and we can do a comparison directly on these two. But to circle back on the exactness of what I was referring to with this, is that this also kind of has a little bit of a secret to it, because you'll notice here that this is a Runeblade hero, and this is a Runeblade hero. Now, what that does mean, and we'll have to confirm this, is that because these are Runeblade heroes, the Runeblade cards can go between each deck, but you can't take the Lightning or the Earth cards and flip them because they are locked to the hero. Same with Verdance. So if you were to take Florian here and remove the items and look, so like these are locked because they are a split card. There's a whole talk about this, but this is an and operation, not an or. So like in the Outsiders set, there were two that were divided, and you could be either or class. This is a you must be and, so that won't work. But here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. There are 20 cards there, which means that if you add those 20 cards to the already existing 40 card deck here, well, you have a 60 card CC deck, assuming that none of them, the Runeblade cards, overlap. Meet and Greet, Ravage Swarm. I'll have to confirm some of that in a post video note that I'll try to add right here, so I won't waste your time. But hopefully that would work, because if that's the case, then that means that not only are you able to buy this at the $60 price point to have a 4-player UPF match, a 2-on-2 or 2 people at the same time with your pot of 4, and like, you know, commander players or whatever, you could buy this and have 2 players play at once, you know, one deck, you know, versus, you know, 2 players at a time. You could also do an intermingling, and again, it's a card game in a box. Now, you do get, in this scenario, 2 booster packs. So people are like, hey, let's open these. Now, we're going to open these, and there's a lot that can happen in the set, but the beauty of the fact that you get a couple of random cards is that for those that might want to hold on to this as a long-term sealed item, this means that there could be some of the most expensive cards in this, and so that is also a really interesting collector aspect of this. And any of these cards, especially for those of you keeping this as a boxed kit, right, you could use these to intermingle between these and shift some cards out. Now, if you're lucky enough to hit a higher rarity tier card in here, then it might kind of disproportionately affect one of the decks, but you don't necessarily have to. But it is nice that they do give you the inclusion of several cards. That is such a beautiful piece of artwork there. And look at that, we have the adult version of the Aurora. So there you go, as a great example with this particular, again, these are random, this isn't always going to happen, but now I literally have the adult version, so I can go to my armory with this and make a Aurora adult version, and you know what, I might do that. So there you go, that's pretty sweet, I like that. Again, there's some pretty interesting components to the way these have been made, and the price point, I think, is pretty fair. You know, it does kind of deter people spending, you know, that $60 is kind of a bit, but you're getting so much bang for your buck. I mean, breaking it down, right, you could almost say each of the decks are $10 or $12 a piece. The playmat is going to be, you know, probably between $20 or $25, and the, you know, the card packs, you know, between $4 and $5. So, ooh, look at that. We got one of the art cards. That's something else that they did in this set. That's pretty sweet. So that Sanctuary of Arya you saw, there's a whole mural set that you can get for each of the heroes. So without talking your ear off anymore, I think that this product is a solid buy. I would recommend it, especially if you're looking at it from a perspective of keeping it as a sealed kit. You get a beautiful playmat, and this can be used because, again, there's no zones on it. It can be leveraged for any game that you choose. Obviously, it is very much a flesh and blood centric mat, and thank you. I will end this video by saying that I am now starting to take YouTube a tad bit more seriously, so if you've watched this far, thank you so very much. There is going to be a YouTube membership that I have launched at this point, and by signing up for that membership, you get to see the podcast that we release once a week a little bit early, and hopefully that will come to you in good form. And if you do choose to support me, I will be eternally grateful. And like always, like, share, subscribe, hit that bell, and until next time, may your games be fun and your friendships grow. Now, which hero would you play out of this set? Bye! Alright, exclusive bonus content for those that are channel members, because I don't know, I'll make this a channel member video or something, I guess.